This is LBC. Message Clive Bull on WhatsApp now. 0345 60 60 973.
Good morning, it's LBC and LBC News. I'm Clive Bull with you through till 4. We're bringing you the breaking news of the security incident at the White House Correspondents Dinner. Gunshots were heard. We haven't got the full story, but the whole dinner and the expected speech by President Trump has been called off, and there will instead be a press conference with Trump expected to speak at that in about half an hour's time. It has been called off, as I say, and we can hear now from Weijia Jiang, who's the WHCA president.
This is a room full of reporters, so I know you've already seen the president's tweet. My apologies, his post on Truth Social. And law enforcement has requested that we leave the premises consistent with protocol. And he wanted to emphasize that nobody was hurt. He and the First Lady, the cabinet, everybody's safe. The president will be having a press briefing at the White House in 30 minutes. That is not a joke. And he insists that we will reschedule this event in the next 30 days. And that he wanted to do it tonight. He wanted to continue despite the news, but has to follow security protocol.
That's Weijia Jiang, who's the president of the White House Correspondents Association. Let's cross back now to Washington and LBC's Washington correspondent, Simon Marks. What more do we know, Simon?
Well, as you heard, Weijia Jiang of CBS News there confirm, speaking in her capacity as president of the White House Correspondents Association this year, no one was hurt. The president and the First Lady are now on their way back to the White House, where President Trump intends to brief reporters and make a statement from the White House briefing room, I think in about 20 minutes' time. I mean, it's perfectly possible that that timing, of course, is going to slip, because the White House correspondents will not be able to speed their way back to the White House like he can, and there will be many of them that want to get back to the briefing room to attend that press briefing by the President of the United States. But Donald Trump has taken to his Truth Social feed again to insist that he wanted the show to go on, but he understands that it can't, but that he's going to commit to attending this dinner and doing it all again, as Weijia Jiang said there, within the next 30 days. There are the first images now on social media of the moment where the gunman, the suspected gunman, was neutralized by members of the Secret Service. There's a couple of images that have been captured by one of the reporters working for Scripps News that show a group of Secret Service officers surrounding a gunman who is on the floor close to where the magnetometers, the metal detectors, are located. And I have to say, Clive, there are multiple reports now, and this is unusual, that the magnetometers were only inside the building. They were not, there was no magnetometer situation set up outside the building that you had to go through in order to get into the hotel lobby and then to go downstairs to the ballroom. The magnetometers were up in the lobby at the point at which, once you cleared through those mags, you would then be able to go immediately downstairs to the ballroom. And I can tell you from personal experience, that is unusual. I mean, normally, when the President of the United States is attending an event at this particular hotel, and as I say, this hotel has form because it is the hotel where the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan took place, the magnetometers are normally outside the front of the building in the driveway. And I can tell you that within the last 3 months, I mean, I saw them because the president was attending a faith-based event at that hotel just a few weeks ago. And I was making my way down to my office, very close to the White House, and we got disrupted on our journey down Connecticut Avenue because police had sealed the road and had to get out of the vehicles that we were travelling in and then walk past the hotel outside the security perimeter. But I could see all the magnetometers set up in the driveway of the hotel for that event. So the fact that the magnetometers were only inside the building, and you know, the weather here has been bad today, there's been a lot of rain, maybe that was a change perhaps in the plan. It's certainly unusual. There are reports that the suspect attempted to charge the magnetometers brandishing a weapon. Some people say they heard at least 6 shots fired, but how many of those shots, if any, were fired by the suspect versus the Secret Service that then contained the threat and apprehended him is very unclear at this point. But I do think there's going to be a big series of questions and a major investigation launched into the nature of the security operation for this event, because it's very unusual. I mean, if you go to conventions, for example, you know, you don't get into the building without having been screened by metal detectors on your way in. So it's pretty unusual for those metal detectors only to be within the building and inside the perimeter. But either way, this suspect was stopped, contained, and according to President Trump, apprehended by members of the Secret Service and other security teams. The president saying that he is committing to attending this event again. He wants it rescheduled within the next 30 days. His White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt confirming that the president will be delivering a statement in the White House briefing room. And now, of course, those thousands of people attending this dinner, including many of the White House reporters who chose to attend this event, controversial though it was for a whole raft of other reasons, will now be making their way out of the building because it is a crime scene, and the police will want to continue, and the Secret Service gathering whatever evidence they can at the scene and preserve that evidence as part of the investigation that's going to get underway.
So we should just emphasise then, tell me if I've got this right, from what I've heard, nobody, they said, has been hurt. And that presumably includes, I don't know, may or may not include the suspect. But other than the suspect, we're not aware of anybody, despite reports of possibly people lying on the floor, maybe they were taking cover, heard various reports, but nothing confirmed in terms of any possible injuries.
Well, the Secret Service has now put out a statement. The U.S. Secret Service, in coordination with the Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington, D.C., is investigating a shooting incident near the main magnetometer screening area at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The President and the First Lady are safe, along with all protectees. That, of course, means other prominent figures within the President's inner circle and some of them outside it that would have been subject to receiving Secret Service protection tonight. One individual is in custody, but the statement then goes on to say the condition of those involved is not yet known and law enforcement is actively assessing the situation. So they say one person is in custody, but the condition of all those involved, presumably including the suspect, is not yet known. I mean, I think that does raise the question as to whether there were other targets of interest that the Secret Service may have been pursuing. We don't know if this was a lone wolf effort or not, because that's a curious phrase to be using. The law enforcement, of course, has now requested that everyone at the dinner leaves the Hilton Hotel immediately. And President Trump now, I haven't yet seen if we've got a pool report. We've got multiple pool reports in now. The pool returned to the White House 8 minutes ago. no. So they are now back at the White House, and I think the presumption must be that the president is also now back at the White House with the First Lady. Jeff Murdoch, White House reporter for the Washington Times, who is the pool reporter tonight, said of the journey, we are flying back to the White House, the fastest motorcade I've ever been in. So that certainly gives you a sense of the determination and urgency of the Secret Service to get President Trump back behind the protective walls of the White House as rapidly as possible. And now we wait to see how long it's going to be before the president addresses the media at the White House and also the country nationally here about the events of this evening and how he chooses to characterize what has taken place. Members of the cabinet were escorted out of the ballroom, some of them stepping over broken plates to get out, seeing pictures of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche being escorted out of the building. The Energy Secretary Chris Wright also being escorted out of the building, according to one onlooker, looking terrified as he was escorted out of the building. I mean, the entire government. Marco Rubio was there, J.D. Vance was there. We've seen this very dramatic image of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, being rushed out of the building by members of his security detail. They were all present for this landmark event on the Washington, D.C. calendar every year. And now I think we are clear that none of them was injured or hurt, but the disposition of the suspect, who some observers claim charged the magnetometers with a weapon, is unclear. Apprehended, but in what condition at this point, Clive, we simply don't know.
Simon, thank you very much, and very interesting to hear particularly what you were saying there about the unusual fact that the magnetometers were inside the building and not where they would normally be, outside as well. But no doubt there'll be more questions and inquiries over that particular aspect. More from Simon coming up. We will, of course, bring you that press conference as well here on LBC and LBC News.